I don't know about you, but to me, it feels like these days there's so much new filmmaking gear coming out every month that it can be hard to keep up with. And because this channel is growing, I get sent a ton of it. A lot of it tends to be stuff like budget mics or iPhone mounts that are never gonna work as part of my professional kit, so I just end up saying no to most of it. But every now and again, a great piece of gear comes my way that surprises me, either because it solves a problem I didn't know I had, or it's just so well made it earns a permanent spot in my kit. So in this video, I'm gonna dive into 6 pieces of gear that I got sent this summer that I liked way more than I expected to, because there's a decent chance you'll love it too. So standard disclaimer here, no money changed hands for this video, and I'm not sponsored by any of these brands. This video does have a sponsor, Audio, but all the manufacturers mentioned here sent me this stuff with no control over what I said about it. I did get sent most of the stuff for free, which seems to make some people really mad. But if that's you, nothing I can say will make you happy, so feel free to either leave a comment telling me what a sellout I am or start a channel of your own. Seriously though, after 10 plus years of doing this, I already have all the budget I need to buy gear, so free gear just really isn't all that exciting. But when something shows up in the mail that over delivers, that's the kind of knowledge I want to share, and so here we are. So to kick things off, let's start with something that transformed my relationships to my FX3, because even though we all know it's a super powerful little camera, there are some things about it that make it challenging to use on professional shoots right out of the box. And here I'm mainly talking about monitoring and power supply, because even though it's got such a great sensor and the built-in LCD is decent-ish, it's just too small to see what's really going on in your frame, especially if you're using focus peaking. For a while I just stuck a 5-inch monitor on top and it helped, but then you have to power those, usually with Sony NPF batteries, and that makes the rig incredibly top-heavy and not that fun to shoot with. And so as much as I've loved the FX3, I'm shooting on it right now, that means it's mainly only been useful for YouTube videos, sometimes as a locked off B cam for interviews, or as a really expensive GoPro that I can mount on cars. That's where this system really shines from Condor Blue. Now I first heard about Condor Blue from Danny Gevirtz's channel, and if you don't know the brand, they're a great hardware manufacturer that fits into that sweet spot between budget stuff like small rig and obscenely expensive stuff like RE or wooden camera. The system is made up of this base plate, some rails, and then this V-mount plate, and then with a couple of cables you can power both your camera and an external monitor using V-mount batteries in a way that's way more ergonomic and balanced than how I was doing it before. Now there's nothing new about this idea exactly, but Condor Blue's version of it is just so much better made than what I've tried in the past, and all the well thought out little details really impressed me. For starters, you can just feel how well made this is. Like, I feel good that it's gonna stand up to the abuse I put on gear, which is really saying something. But more than that, it's the little things, like the fact that the D-tap plug is ambidirectional and really easy to plug into, unlike the cheaply built options where it's always way too tight and I feel like I'm wrestling the thing into place. And then there's like this switch that shuts the power off from the battery to the monitor and camera, so you're not constantly draining power while the camera sits there on standby. Even the cables they make are super premium, and just everything that Condor Blue sells seems to be designed with quality in mind before anything else. Now I already had their top handle and I've been using it on my FX3 for a few years now, so maybe it shouldn't have been that surprising, but somehow the fact that I liked this as much as I did still was. So if you're an FX3 shooter and you want your camera to work better as an A-cam, this is the best system like this I've ever used, and it's made that camera even more useful than it already was. Okay, next up is something that really surprised me, because it's one of those products that I didn't really think had any room for improvement, because it's just been done the same way for so long, sort of like how the Sachtler Flowtech reimagined tripods. Now if you've worked with film gear, odds are you've seen one of these before, which is just a standard donkey rack. And don't worry, this isn't the item, because these have been around for ages and lots of other brands make something similar. It's pretty easy to see what's going on here. It's just a piece of padded fabric with Velcro on the corners that you wrap around your gear. It's simple and it works, and I didn't really think there was much to change here. So when f-stop reached out and asked if I wanted to try one of their new wraps, I didn't really get it. I have a great relationship with that company though, and I've been using their bags for most of my video career, so I said okay, but honestly I thought it was just more of the same. But it's not the same, and what's going on here is pretty cool. So unlike every other wrap I've ever seen, the first thing you notice about these f-stop ones is that there's no Velcro. It's just one smooth piece of fabric. But through some sort of sorcery that I don't really understand, you don't actually need the Velcro, because any part of this will stick to itself. And when I say stick, I mean it, because I can pull as hard as I want on this and it doesn't move. So it's actually much stronger than the traditional system. That also means it doesn't matter where the corners line up, which means you can protect all sorts of really weirdly shaped things. Plus there's no loud ripping noise when you open it like Velcro, which could really be great if you're working on a quiet set. So 10 out of 10 for functionality already. But beyond that, this whole thing is made out of recycled material and apparently sea algae. So the manufacturing process is carbon neutral. Now, not everyone is going to care about this, but personally I do. And since film can be such a wasteful industry, I love that f-stop is trying to think this way. I mean, even the bag it comes in is fully biodegradable. And f-stop does all this quietly without a bunch of greenwashing slogans on their website. And I really respect that. Really cool stuff that makes me like f-stop even more and makes me more of a fanboy than I already was, which is saying something. And speaking of being a fanboy, there's one tool that I've been using for every single one of these videos for almost 2 years now, and it's definitely something I liked a lot more than I was expecting when we first started working together, and that's Audio, the sponsor of this video. Finding high quality music for YouTube videos and short films without getting sued used to be one of the most annoying parts about filmmaking, but that's not really something I ever have to think about these days. And the reason I've chosen Audio over all the competitors, and believe me, I've been asked by them, but it's because I genuinely believe that it's the best deal out there for independent filmmakers, and here's why. For starters, if you sign up using the code Luke70, it's just $59 a year, which is about a quarter of the price of what these services normally charge. Plus, they've got tons of cool tools like stem track isolation and AI-powered song matching that helps you find similar music to famous songs that you can use without being sued, and a bunch more stuff. They're also just really nice people who really do have filmmakers' best interests in mind, and that's something I think we can all agree to like. So check out the link below and use the code Luke70 and save yourself a ton of cash. Okay, next up I want to talk about lights, because if you saw my lighting kit video update from a few weeks ago, you'll know that I made a lot of changes this year. And one of the biggest new additions was the 8-Light MC Pro Kit. But before Aperture offered it to me to try out, I'm just gonna straight up say that these things weren't really on my radar. I mean, I knew what they were, but I already had a couple of the old MCs plus some Aladdin and Zhiyun lights that were about the same size and form factor, so I didn't pay much attention to these. And yes, on the surface, they're not that different, but after playing with them for a while, I'm really starting to appreciate just how improved and refined these are, and I'm surprised by how much I like them. For starters, they are a lot brighter than the old MCs, like way brighter than I expected. The website says 4 times more powerful, and I believe it because it's pretty shocking how much more power they got out of a similar sized body. But more than that, it's the build quality of the new system that's made a huge impression on me, because I beat the crap out of my gear. Compared to other lights of this size I have, everything about these just feels well made. Like, it's all metal, the buttons are metal, all the grids and softboxes just snap into place with magnets, the buttons feel great, and even more importantly, they're super weather resistant with an IP65 rating, which makes them safe from dust and rain, which would be the main 2 killers of a light like this that I'd expect. All that means that the MC Pros feel like the ultimate version of the pocket light, something that I can stick on a lamppost outside or hide in a bush and not worry about them while still being able to throw real light onto a scene. Now, I won't pretend that I need all 8 of the things that come in the kit, but if you do, the case and accessories that come with the kit are amazing too. But for most people, just a few of these will be enough to be incredibly useful, and I definitely like these way more than I was expecting. Next, I want to talk about lenses, because lately I feel like more and more new players are entering the lens manufacturing game every day. And normally I say no to these offers because the lenses they want to send are generally just cine-housed versions of the same lenses I already have, and I'm not really looking to accumulate gear just for the sake of filling up this tiny apartment any more than it already is. And I sort of felt the same resistance when Surui offered me these, their Surui Anamorphics. Now, I already posted a full video on these last month, but these really did surprise me with how much I like them. And they're quirky in a lot of ways, like the strange 1.6 times de-squeeze factor, which can be kind of tough to calibrate with some older monitors, but the good definitely outweighs the bad with these. For starters, they really do look good, assuming you're interested in that anamorphic style. And when I got the footage back to my computer, I was very impressed. They're also so small and light that, unlike every anamorphic lens I've ever used before, you can actually carry these things around and use them on run and gun shoots without destroying your back or the balance of the camera. My main concern starting out were that the flares were gonna look way over the top like you get with those screw-on blue filters that put, you know, crazy lines through your frames. But again, I was surprised because they're actually nice and non-gimmicky looking. I personally definitely prefer the natural flare to the blue one, but to each their own. I'm not gonna say much more because the other video is already there if you want it, but for something that I didn't expect to like at all, this was a great surprise. All right, 2 more things to go here, and out of all of them, I think this was probably the thing that surprised me most, mainly because I'd never heard of this brand, and they made some big promises that I didn't think they could deliver on. Basically, the company, FallCam, told me they created a new travel tripod, this thing called the Tree Root that they were comparing to a mini Flowtech. And if you've been watching this channel, you know I'm a mega fan of the actual Flowtech, so when a relatively unknown manufacturer drops that comparison, I'm automatically suspicious. But last winter, I destroyed my second Peak Design tripod and I didn't want to try again with them. And since I needed a new small tripod to replace it, I decided to give it a try. And this is it. And honestly, they kind of deliver on their promise. In some ways anyways. It's a super lightweight, all carbon fiber tripod and it has a unique locking system that's really quick to use. And normally I hate these kind of twist locks, but these somehow tighten and open with just a quarter twist. So they are way faster than normal. The head that ships with this is pretty good for a tripod of this size, and you can also swap it out for one of your own if you'd rather. And you can also get it super low to the ground like you would with the Flowtech. Now, obviously it's not a Flowtech because it's like 1/10 of the price, and I don't really know yet how it's gonna stand up to the abuse of long shoots in the field. I don't wanna pretend I've really put this thing through its paces yet, but my first impressions from the 2 shoots I did with it were really good, and it's definitely gonna replace the Peak Design in my travel kit from now on. So another nice surprise here because honestly, I just expected to take it out of the box and then give it away to my camera assistant because I didn't ask for this in the first place. But I'm sorry for him because I'm keeping it. If it's still holding up in a year's time, I'll do a follow-up because that would be truly an amazing deal. And last but not least, but also sort of least because this really is a niche item even if it's cool, is this portable smoke machine I got from Lensco. Now I don't use smoke or haze all that much in my doc work, but the few times I've wanted to, I found the machines incredibly annoying to carry around and the liquid always seems to spill in transit, so they're just generally a pain. But this is a tiny little guy with an internal battery and the whole thing fits into a really small travel case. Now this is a smoke machine, not a haze machine, and smoke and haze aren't the same, and the stuff that comes out of this is a lot clumpier and less diffused than you get from a professional haze machine. For a really high stakes shoot or a feature film set, you're gonna want one of the plug-in machines. But if you only occasionally need to add texture to a space and do a lot of run and gun stuff like I do, this is something that's gonna make your life a lot easier. I had extremely low expectations for this thing, but I'm happy to say it easily surpassed them and it's staying in the kit. So there we go, 6 pieces of gear I liked way more than I expected to. Getting free gear is a mixed bag, and sometimes I'm at a point in my career where I don't actually want the stuff lying around if I don't use it. But luckily the things on this list don't fall into that category, and I only wish that all the boxes that showed up at my door had stuff this good inside. See ya.